All right, so what I want to show you today is the link between functional movement and back pain, right? And this is one of the reasons why I teach what I teach, and I teach, building from the core first and strengthening specifically this muscle here, as you're familiar with now, the TVA muscle, the transverse abdominal or the transverse abdominis. One of the reasons why I do this is because ultimately I work with a lot of clients who have back pain, right? It's like at some point in our life, we all experience pain, whether that is like in the muscle, which is back here, as we talked about a little bit, but whether that's in the spine. And the thing about it, and this is what I encourage you to do, if you have back pain or you've experienced back pain, at any point, is to, rather than rushing to like a Band-Aid solution, there's a lot of fancy like Band-Aid solutions out there, which is just kind of like surgery, operations, chiropractors, those kind of things. Like I encourage you to understand, which is what I'm going to show you, the root cause of why all of these pains keep happening, right? And, I talked about it a little bit in the first video, but again, like right here is your TVA muscle, right? So this is our primary stabilizing muscle here. Now, here's what happens, right? So a couple things, if you remove it, so let me show you what it's like when you don't have the TVA. So just take a quick look around here. So I want to show you these muscles, these big muscles here. So these are our hip flexors. These big ones are called the psoas muscles, right? These are kind of like the popular ones. But what they do is they really link up our lower back, as you can see. So here's something to consider, is that they connect right to the lower back here. See that? They connect right to the lower back, but these muscles, these guys actually go all the way down, and then they connect all the way to the inside of the knee. So if you were to like move this down a little bit, let me show you. These same muscles, and if I was to remove, well, let me not remove all of them, but here, you see, these are the hip flexors, and then they run all the way down and they connect to the inside of the knee, right? So from like an anatomical standpoint in your body, you want to understand that there's a link, right? The hip muscles are effectively the link between the upper body here and the lower body. Now, what happens in the absence of this muscle? Again, so this TVA muscle is our primary stabilizer, right? And when it doesn't work the way it should do, the way it should be, so again, it's the muscle that acts first, no matter what we do, whether we're running, jumping, swimming, whether we're doing a handstand, any type of movement, that's the muscle that acts first. And when it doesn't work and it isn't trained like it should be, these muscles here and here just take over, right? They take over and they do all the work the TVA should, and they get tight, right? So the first thing that happens when these muscles get tight is they contract. And just having tight hips alone, like this is what a lot of people don't realize, is that the hip muscles are connected right here to the back, right? And they connect right to the lower back. And by simply having tight hips, you pull on this area here, like this whole area. So this is one of the pieces. This is one of the components of what causes back pain. And when you pull on it, of course, you compress the spine. And by compressing the spine, you have the discs. And this is how your disc can pop out. This is how they can crack. They can easily just slide out, which can cause pain, right? And it's one of the reasons why you get sciatic nerve pain, for example, is because these muscles here, not these muscles, the discs here will pop out, and you have nerves that you can't see that kind of run down this way. And when these muscles bang on the nerve, you get that pain. So these muscles, these discs here pop out, and they'll bang on the nerves like here, right? Whether you bend forward or whatever it is, which is a really common thing, by the way, and that's how you get the burning or the tingling, that kind of thing, right? So that's one side of it. But the other thing I want to flip around and just show you is this, is that if you take a look at the lower back muscles here, so again, these are what are called the QL muscles. And what these do is they also control stabilizing, right? So I'm gonna go up here. Let me show you. Again, you'll see where they connect here, 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 the connection point. So in the absence of the TVA, like those hip flexor muscles that I showed you, these muscles will want to do the exact same thing. And when these muscles are overworking, they get tight. So this is just like the hips, but the same thing happens here. And these muscles connect the pelvis to the ribs, right? And when these get tight, again, directly through the fascia, like if I remove, well, let me just show you this here. You see how they connect right along the side here of the lower back, right? And through the fascia, they're connecting here. And what that does is, again, that creates more pressure, or that creates more crunching. And that's just one piece. That's like really one piece of what happens. But the other thing to really understand is, take a look. It's like here and here. These connection points, these are where they connect to the pelvis, right? And it can also, when these muscles get tight, these are, again, these are the QL muscles. When these get tight, this will go up, right? This is the back of your pelvis, and this is what's called typically like anterior tilt. Let me just turn it to the side so you can kind of see. So this whole thing here is the pelvic bowl that you're seeing. And when this goes down, oops, let me move it back here. Let me show you this angle. So when this goes down that way and the back of the pelvis goes up, that's what creates anterior tilt. So not only are you pulling on your lower back here because these muscles are tight, but what's happening is this will start to go up and it will literally compress the entire spine. So what that does is it presses up, and then you have this inward compacting force directly on the lower back. So what you're doing is, imagine taking like your hand on each end of the spine. So like right there, and then right there, and then you're pressing. So you're creating just like a compressive force, which again, compacts the spine, which creates pressure, and it can cause the discs to slip out, right? So not only, a lot of people experience chronic back pain because it isn't just a function of the discs, it's also a function of the muscles. Right? And so like what happens is, like with the disc, when the disc pops out, sometimes the operation is you just cut it, or, you know, you get like a quick adjustment. But the reality is it's short term, because even then when these muscles are tight here and they're doing the stabilizing for the core, for this TVA muscle that's kind of like all wrapped in here, then you still experience immediate pain. And that's why back pain becomes chronic, because the pain is from multiple sources, right? And we see this all the time. I see it with my clients. It really is like, once you get on the bandwagon and you start to train and you get the momentum going, the upside is that the pain can go away like relatively quickly, right? And you can get it to go away within a month. And then you can get it by training. Like the way you safeguard your body for the future is to train the core. Because the reality is all the pain that happens here starts with not being trained there, right? The core. So this muscle, oops, let me just add it back right there, right? So this is the muscle, and you see how much space it takes up. This is our primary stabilizer, and we want it to work. So that's a gist like on back pain. And again, you have other things that happen where when these get tight, when you're pressing, you also will experience pain on this end, and you'll start to experience in the neck. So typically back pain, so that you understand, isn't just at one end, it typically happens on both. And what you'll find is the pain happens on the top as a result. And then so what will happen is when this shoots upward, this whole thing will start to compress here too, right? Which is what causes the issue, which is what causes the problem there at both ends. So that's one. And then just really quickly, so you understand, I want to keep this video short here, but again, you have let me show you. So these are your hamstring muscles here. And let me show you just the connection, and then we'll wrap up. But if you take a look here and here, these are our hamstring muscles. Now, if you remove different points, you'll see, well, let's go here. Let me just show you this. This here is your hamstring attachment, right? And this is where the muscle itself connects to the bottom of the pelvis. So again, with these muscles here, with these lower back muscles up there, those QL muscles, when they're tight and they create an anterior tilt, these specific points here also will push up, right? And what that does is, if you have tight hamstrings, which is common, back pain and tight hamstrings go hand in hand, but this is why, is these points go up. And what it's doing by default is, if the muscle here cannot accommodate these the extra length that's happening when this pushes up, then what will happen is it'll just pull on the attachment. So you get pain there and you feel like you have locked hamstrings. So this is a big reason why we teach functional movement. And, if you look down below on this page, you'll see, oops, spinning around there. But if you look down below on the page, it's like a lot of the stuff that we do functionally. It's like one of the reasons why I teach handstands, why I teach arm balances, why I teach this stuff is we do it in phases where we first start by training the core. And then once we start to train this and we get that down, that's what safeguards your back. And then what happens is once you build that strength, you then can go in and you can start to learn like all the cool stuff, right? Like you can start to work on like handstands, which is like the stuff that I like to teach. And that's later down the line. Arm balances. But what that does is, yeah, they're fun to do and they're really cool to show off, but it is one of the single best types of exercise, hand balancing like that can prevent back pain for good and help you build a strong functional body, right? So going forward, especially as, we all start to get older, back pain, like what are the statistics? I think it's like 4 in 5 people experience back pain in their life. And if you're someone who exercises, you're someone who likes to be active, you don't want to be crippled by the back. And so if you've been doing more of like the traditional like weightlifting thing where you're focusing on vanity muscles more so than the muscles that actually drive function, that's one of the primary causes of back pain. Not to mention one other thing here, your abs, right? A lot of people focus on these here, and this is like kind of like the typical gym route where they focus on these, but they don't focus on any of this, right? And that's really the first shift I like, especially people who are active. I see this all the time when I take on a new client, I see right away that there's too much ab work and not enough deep core work, right? And there's not enough core stability. So when you just work these without working these here, then actually what you get is skewed posture, because when these become well trained, combined with the TVA being weak, they compress here, right? Which causes the shoulders to come down, postural issues, right? Which again can also create an exaggerated curve in the back, which can create the discs, right? Which can cause the discs to pop out. So those are all the connections. The body is all trained. And, and this is what I do. And this is really why we're different, is because we start with this first. We start with really building a solid TVA, and we help you to understand like this, like through your anatomy, why your body is doing the way it is. Because the long-term knowledge and for long-term health, and not just like, to be like not just temporary vanity, but for long-term health and function, it's to your advantage to understand how your body works and what affects why it does. And when you get this in order, you can not only get strong and you can not only get rid of your back pain for good, but you can build a really, really, really functional body that lasts, and then set yourself up for long-term health later down the line. Even if it's never too early to start, whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s. We actually have even a couple clients in their 70s, right? It's like when you start to train this is the long-term solution to back pain, but it's also the solution to help you move functionally, right? And it's like, as they say, it's like your biological age doesn't matter so much, but what really matters is what your spine is up to, right? And if your spine is fully functional, your posture's good, you're able to move, then you're in a good place and you're going to be on this planet for a long time, right? But again, when we have pain, it's like we realize right away that it can get, if we don't take care of it, it gets worse and worse and worse. And if you have back pain now, I encourage you to take care of that, right? And get it sorted out and understand, which is really exactly what we do, is we show you how to train the TVA, from start to finish. We train it, and then we don't just train it, but as a result of it, we start to build all the other components around it so you have that functional body. All right, so that just about wraps it up. And again, if this resonated with you and this is what you want, and like, hey, I'm ready to like take charge of my body now, I'm ready to start developing a stronger core so I can not only support my lower back, but my entire skeleton, and you're on board with doing some cool stuff, and you're on board with like stepping outside traditional fitness, and you're into functional movement and learning how to really challenge your core on a deep level and start doing some handstands and doing some other cool stuff to go with it. Again, just click the link right below and you can schedule a call, and you'll speak with my team, and you guys will have a conversation about kind of where you are now, what's working and what's not working for you. And then if it sounds like you're a good fit for the program, they'll spend some time and they'll talk about that. All right, so that is it for this video. I hope this was helpful for you guys and just kind of understanding where back pain comes from, but also why I teach functional movement and how I do it. Because functional movement ultimately is the cure for back pain, and that's the long-term permanent solution for it, so that you aren't at the mercy of having to constantly go to a chiropractor or, you know, even worse, like at a risk for an operation or constantly in pain. Because life is too short for that to be in pain all the time. And if that's you, I encourage you to schedule a call now, speak to my team, and we'll get you taken care of. All right, so have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later.